This program is intended for an adult audience. Presented by Midnight Media, Sharpcast Heated, starring your host, Sharply.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Sharpcast Heated. As always, I am your host, Sharpwing, and I do have to say, American patriots, we have them all around us, but recently, in our recent years, we've been approached and disturbed by a really strange conversation, which is, are you a real patriot? Are you patriot enough? Does this classify patriot? It's a really strange conversation to be having, especially when we're actually talking about people who had served in the military because of where they're from. And this story is a little old, but it is one that recently got to me on an emotional level. And there was something that especially bothered me about a fellow Ohioan, an Asian American, having to undo his tie, pull back his dress shirt, and show a war scar he'd gotten on his chest from serving in the U.S. military, asking people,
Now, is this patriot enough?
So, I'm very much aware that the question was a rhetorical question, and the man didn't expect a response. But he's going to get one, Ohioan to Ohioan. Yes, you are plenty more patriot than any man or woman standing in that room, sir.
Mm-hmm.
And I will die by that statement. Proudly.
I'm all right.
That being said, I guess the primary thing I wanted to get into for at least the first 30 minutes of the show was approaching people with a fundamental question. And that's a question of...
Do you want to say anything about Michigan?
Oh, we got somebody coming.
Well, the important question of the day is, do you want a sandwich?
We are a professional podcast.
We are a very professional podcast, yes.
Oh, shit. I'll if it's included in the recordings, I'll keep it in. But what is the major actual question?
The major question...
God damn it!
Very professional podcast.
Did you get that? Did you get that sandwich, by the way, Helios?
No, I don't. I don't get I don't eat until after I'm done with the show.
Damn. Starving yourself. You're going on a Sharpcast fast, am I right?
Well, once I'm dedicated to doing something, I'm doing something. But yeah, it's like right. this is. I want you to understand. You know, my parents, God love them. They sometimes don't appreciate obvious visual cues that I'm engaged with something. Like, I'm in here, I'm talking on the headset, I'm listening to things, and only after my mom asked me all those things, she's like, "Oh, are you on?" I'm like, yeah. It's like, no, I'm just wearing a headset for fun. But the more egregious one is when I'm downstairs, because I got the VR set up downstairs, and so I have the headset on, and if you're familiar with the VR headset, you got the whole thing that wraps around your head. You can't really see anything, got the headphones on. It's designed to block out all sensory input. Without fail, people will always try to have a conversation with me while I'm on the headset. People are like, you know, hey Helios, look at it's like, hey Helios, look at this. It's like, no, there is literally a computer screen on my head. I literally cannot look at that right now. I'm looking at whatever's going on here.
I am literally wearing my video game, Mom. Please, courtesy.
Yeah, it's just, wait until I take the headset off. Then you can talk to me all you want. But when I had the headset on, talk amongst yourselves, because I'm out.
You guys should try living alone, so that way you don't have to deal with this kind of shit.
Yeah, I will say, I know the feeling.
Yeah.
It's like, my mom does the same thing. I've definitely thought about like putting an indicator on my door that says I'm recording, or you know, just something blatantly obvious, like a fucking sign that says no trespassing just slammed right there on the driveway.
Get yourself one of those hotel door hanging things that says, "Hey, I'm kind of recording. I'm busy."
Yeah, do not disturb. I could probably order one of those through Amazon.
I think I have one of those on my door. Everyone just ignores it.
It's a very nice segue. We
gonna
kind of allow these to organically happen so that
Yeah.
the Sharpcast feels more like a genuine conversation
Yeah.
between people,
But
not news anchors.
But yeah, so actually, Sharp, if I may, to go back to your story about your fellow Ohioan soldier, that
Of course.
reminded me about there was a show that aired several years ago called The Newsroom. It was written by Aaron Sorkin and starred Jeff Daniels, and you probably only know it for one scene, and that is where Jeff Daniels' character Will McAvoy goes on this rant about how America isn't the greatest country in the world anymore.
We're 7th in literacy, 27th in math, 22nd in science, 49th in life expectancy, 178th in infant mortality, 3rd in median household income, number 4 in labor force, and number 4 in exports. We lead the world in only 3 categories: number of incarcerated citizens per capita, number of adults who believe angels are real, and defense spending, where we spend more than the next 26 countries combined, 25 of whom are allies.
Of course, the people, whenever you see that rant, tend to cut off the end of it where he says,
Sure used to be. We stood up for what was right. We fought for moral reasons. We passed laws, struck down laws for moral reasons. We waged wars on poverty, not poor people. We sacrificed. We cared about our neighbors. We put our money where our mouths were, and we never beat our chest. We built great big things, made ungodly technological advances, explored the universe, cured diseases, and we cultivated the world's greatest artists and the world's greatest economy.
or the fact that this being an Aaron Sorkin production, the character delivers several monologues about various topics to various effects, and one of them really resonated with me here. And it's an episode where they're talking about they're covering a Republican primary. They're covering the campaign stop for someone who is running for the Republican nomination, and there is a soldier. It involves a soldier serving in Iraq, and the soldier is gay, and the soldier booed him. They booed the soldier. They booed the soldier.
Yeah, the audience booed the soldier, yeah.
In 2010, when I was deployed to Iraq, I had to lie about who I was because I'm a gay soldier, and I didn't want to lose my job. My question is, under one of your presidencies, do you intend to circumvent the progress that's been made for gay and lesbian soldiers in the military?
Yeah. So this is what Will McAvoy, this is Jeff Daniels' character, this is monologue, this is what he said in response to that, and I think it applies very much to the situation at hand here.
That was a big room full of Republican primary voters booing an American combat soldier who, as he was speaking, was in combat. The audience members who were booing were in Orlando. Soon they'll surely be in hell, though not soon enough. Not everyone was booing. There were people in the audience who heard Captain Hill say that when he was deployed to Iraq, he was worried that if his sexuality was discovered, they might not let him go. As opposed to most of us who, if told we were being deployed to Iraq, would go Corporal Klinger faster than you can pull on a yellow taffeta picnic dress. I'm sure there were even some people in the building who stood up for Captain Hill. People who had the simple strength of character to turn to the fraction of a human in the seat next to them and say, how many different kinds of disgusting do you have to be to boo a man who volunteered to fight and die for you? I'm sure those people were there. I'm sure there were many of them. But unfortunately, none of them were on the stage. Not one of these would-be commanders-in-chief took a moment to stand with a line officer. They let him stand alone. Soldiers never do that. Leaders never do that. Witless bullies and hapless punks do it all the time. The only president on the stage last night was Stephen Hill. Godspeed, Captain Hill, and come home soon. A grateful nation is waiting to say thank you.
And I say that monologue because first of all, it takes a lot of nerve to question the patriotism of someone who volunteered to go overseas and fight your battles for you, to pay the price of freedom that we all are indebted with, which is the price of blood. So to question that man's patriotism to the extent that he is forced to show his scars to prove that he loves his country, I mean, it's insulting, isn't it? Now, this is not to say that we should give blanket commemoration to all members of the military, okay? It's entirely possible to be a soldier who is bravely fighting for us and also act against the best interests of this country. If you recall, the insurrection,
Also,
there were the Oath Keepers, for example.
Yeah,
you know,
also,
those people are not patriots.
Also be a scumfuck, yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And my primary thing is really boiling down to the core of what makes a patriot. Obviously, we've already ruled out white skin as, you know,
the sole qualifier.
As the sole qualifier. No, instead, a Chinaman essentially proved to a lot of Ohioans what a patriot really is.
Well, an Asian American, but let's be real.
Yeah, Asian American, Chinaman. We say Chinaman around here. I don't know if it's actually racist or what. But
I may have to check the ref. I may have to.
It's not looked upon kindly these days.
Yeah, it's a bunch of old conservative World War II people, so they like refer to like fucking Japanese as Japs and all that kind of shit.
Yeah.
Those boomers, the boomers.
Yeah.
Carol, I remember from a movie.
They infest this state, and one thing I will say openly is, in good faith, I wasn't meaning to be offensive here. I will go on record to say that.
Yeah, I think that's obvious. Mm-hmm.
I'm just surrounded by a bunch of old people with old people speak. Don't worry, there's plenty of young people here too, but the thing is, when you're raised by the old people, you tend to pick up their lexicon. That being said, you also pick up their values. And one thing that I've learned about old America is, despite how racist and bigoted it might have been at times, we have to fundamentally remember that amongst all those racists and shouting voices and yapping, there's also a wise old person sitting on his porch playing the banjo in the middle of the summer. And if you go up and talk to him, he'll probably regale you about tales of the Great Depression or what a farce the Vietnam War was.
Hopefully he's not playing dueling banjos.
Yeah. Yeah. But like, my point is, the world is so much bigger than we give it credit for, and things are always far more complicated than we try to make them out to be. The primary thing that I know, for example, the quote that Helios had established and left out the portion about how America used to be great, a lot of people, yes, do leave out the other half of that monologue. And they try to send one simple message. We were never great. We didn't do anything of note, anything worthy. And I'm going to take this back, right? I'm going to take this back from lefties who are really trying to make us look like we hate America. If you're going to sit there and establish ideas tantamount opposed to immigrants who have sweat for this country, who have bled for this country, I've got one thing to say to you that your own really should have said to you a long time ago. You're fucking racist.
Yeah.
Really sucks having that whole thing turned on you, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. I've seen this happen before. People claim they're not racist all they want, but then they start actually being racist.
They start doing, saying, and acting ways that very much, are racist.
Yes.
And that being said, we got a lot of racists in America. I'm not going to doubt that. And it does no good to point out each and every single one. It does do good to point out if your paramedic's racist. If the guy doing your taxes is racist.
Yeah, but then, Sharp, you're just trying to cancel them, right?
If the person put in charge of putting out a fire, your home, for example, that is on fire, which could mean life or death, decides in that key moment, yeah, I'm going to discriminate against this fucker. Stories. LGBT have actually regaled people about paramedics that would not resuscitate their lover because they were gay. I'm not kidding, right? Like, there were actually people that took the medical oath, swore to save lives, let someone die because of that little arbitrary fact.
I shall save lives, except for that one.
I shall do the devil's work, not God's work. That's for damn sure. Remember that quote in the Bible when God said, "Thou shalt let your neighbor die if he's gay"?
Thou shalt let your neighbor die if he performs butt piracy.
Now I know this is a very serious. This is a very serious conversation, and it comes off as preachy. But I want to try to relate to the audience as human beings, as people.
Okay.
If this was somebody you cared about, you'd want to deck the son of a bitch square in the jaw. You probably want to do more than that. You want to rip out his hair and everything else. I'd shoot the fucker. There's one reason. So, we've got this camp in America wanting to sit here and talk about who's patriotic and who's not. I would say the most patriotic people right now are the people in hospitals trying to save lives indiscriminately.
Absolutely. How about the people working the vaccination distribution sites trying to get as many shots in arms as possible?
Yeah, as many shots in arms as possible. How about, let's talk to you, rural America. How about the 40-mile truckers? People driving semis, tankers, transporting that vaccine day and night to the site it needs to go. The fact that we're not even acknowledging, even in the news, that rural America is playing a huge part in trying to save lives, and we don't actually hate humanity.
Yeah, and and rural America is also, as we've talked about before on this show, rural America is going to be one of the last last areas to get the vaccine because of logistical issues, which really sucks.
And that sucks.
Fuck me, I guess. Damn.
And that sucks, but you know what? We still keep trucking along. And I understand you, rural America, right? I've grown up in you. I've lived in you. This could be taken severely out of context. But I've walked in your shoes. There's just something metropolitan areas miss that a rural area captures. And it's not just a familial sense in blood. It's a familial sense in community when it can be established. It's the fact that because we were born tough and ready to fight and ready to take on anything life throws at us. I mean, we're already living in one of the most forgotten parts of the world. The only thing that keeps us alive is self-sufficiency half the time. Ingenuity. The intelligence that we made off our own backs. Like, we never gave up, though. And that is something that is extraordinarily admirable about rural America, about Texas even, right? These motherfuckers might have suffered through a hurricane, but most of them survived it. And they survived it to hold the people at ERCOT accountable that lied to them. That ain't a news story you'll hear. A story of triumph, a story that gives people hope. That there were people willing to burn the clothes off their back just to say, fuck you to death. Now, I'm not wanting to glorify a horrible situation. But what I will glorify, because I'm one of the many people that knows how to respect it, is a man who looks death square in the eye and says, fuck you, you're not taking me. Scratches, claws, carves, digs a hole on his fucking own. He doesn't need somebody to teach him how. He'll learn along the way. Will get himself out of that hole. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Nothing but sheer determination.
Aye.
This is something that embodies rural America, and metropolitan areas strongly miss the mark half the time. And I think it's just because of how much of a hurry they're in, and their inability to stop and breathe for a moment. To take in, well, the lack of scenery. I mean, we have trees. That's actually a plus, rural America. We have trees. Cities don't.
Yeah, cities don't have a whole lot of trees, I can tell you that.
You see, that's why there was a whole thing years back to that whole initiative the whole initiative in California to have trees a lot more frequently, to have trees grown a lot more frequently, which has paid off, but also due to new construction projects, those trees are getting chopped down.
There are actually words I'll use to describe rural America in its most honest state, without all the institutions and churches and Republican politicians and stuff muddying the waters of rural America's character that often gets missed. And I'll say a few words to describe it. Determination. Courage. Honesty. Integrity. Grit. These are things largely lacking in the United States and can only really be found in the parts of the world forgotten that have to fend for themselves practically.
Mm-hmm.
But those are characteristics most admirable because they equal the most patriotic of us half the time. The people willing to lay down their lives for the change they want to see. The people that respect the right to bear arms there because they understand what it actually allows them to do. And that is not just protect their families, but protect the America they believe in.
Absolutely. That's we've talked before on this program. What was it about someone like Donald Trump that attracted so many of these rural voices? And a lot of that kind of goes back to what Sharp just talked about here, is that there are people who I've talked about before, is that, the suburban people who voted for Trump made a hard choice. It was like, well, Trump's not that great, but we've been told Hillary's a devil, so maybe he won't be so bad. Out in the rural areas, it was a different story. Their way of life was literally dying. These people out here are dying. I mean, Sharp, you could probably confirm what I'm about to say here. If you're out there in rural America, you don't have a whole lot of resources when it comes to things like unemployment or drug addiction. Opioids in particular are a really massive problem out there.
All you have essentially are the support circle of the few friends you've made along the way and your family. And sometimes,
it used to be the church as well, but even that's not anymore because the church is in decline now here in America.
The church has really hit a bump. Because now there are people in this part of the country in these desperate times that are especially questioning specifically the church's teachings about disowning their gay cubs. Like, they don't want to do it anymore. Mm-hmm. They're sick and tired of seeing the church that was supposed to keep families together rip them apart. They're sick and tired of seeing their faith turn into bile and vitriol towards the people that they're actually doing all of this for. They're done. They're walking away. They're sick of it. And that's, you know what? Good. I'm not against the churches, right? I think there are good pastors. There are good people out there. There are men who have lived a long life to become a pastor because they believed in their community. I've met such people. I have met pastors that aren't really openly homophobic. Like, I've met pastors that had history with radio, actually. A lot of sound equipment and stuff, and they have, like, their own little gospel radio station in their like in their retirement years. a lot of these chapels are especially built with like a house right next to it. The pastor literally lives in the house right next to the church. And you know, it's amazing, honestly. But there is something extraordinarily unique about Christianity that allows it to persevere.
Yeah.
When it comes to the teaching of Jesus Christ in particular, he gave you one out from corrupt institutions. Yeah, you know you can actually practice the faith in private and it still counts. You don't have to go to the church.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
It's a mock-up, but that's essentially what Jesus said.
Yeah, I haven't really gone to church in better part of a year now. Granted, part of that's because of the pandemic, but no, they just live stream our masses over the internet, and we just watch it at our house. It's a hell of a lot more convenient, I'll tell you that right now. But Jesus did say you should pray in private. You know, he didn't say do much of, like, basically all the stuff that you see the evangelicals do, or people like the Westboro Baptist Church do, you know, all the people protesting outside abortion centers and things of that nature. Yeah, Jesus never said to do that. Never said anything about that. You know, he said, heal the sick, take care of those less fortunate than you, pay in private. It's actually kind of progressive when you think about it, isn't it?
Yeah. I remember that particular speech. A particular speech from the newsroom.
Yep.
Where McAvoy was talking about the American Taliban.
Yeah, what he called the Republicans, the American Taliban.
Yeah.
It is a speech that I will probably quote word for word before long when talking about the Republican Party. So,
essentially, long story short, the whole entire speech ended in the fact that the primary enemy of the Republican Party is not actually Democrats, Nancy Pelosi, or anybody else. It's Jesus Christ.
Yeah, absolutely. Because there's not a whole lot of current Republican doctrine that really matches up with what Jesus actually taught in the New Testament.
Also, Democrats aren't devoid of religion. House Majority Leader Nancy Pelosi should actually be a huge indicator.
It should also, and Joe Biden, second Catholic to ever be president. He actually goes to Mass every Sunday.
Yeah, so, I don't know. Like, this whole broken idea that we're all so uber woke, like, there are still conservative elements in the Democrat Party, and the reason people go Democrat really are probably because of the issues on the docket. I'm sure if some Republicans had even an amount of the tact Democrat politicians do nowadays, they would probably be the first to be elected in a lot of these states. If they actually had the ability to address the issues these people care about. Now, there is something that's fundamentally broken, and that's the fact that because of how isolated rural America is, and because certain states actually do get treated better than others in every policy change in the United States, this is a truth we really have to grapple with.
Mm-hmm.
This is how the propaganda of the failure of the welfare system and the invasion of certain racial groups, the great replacing,
all that propaganda there.
Our election trying to be co-opted. It's the reason things like this actually triumph and succeed in these places is people don't really pay much mind to us.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of us that live here.
Yeah.
And, because of that, infrastructure's collapsing, falling apart. There's a bunch of abandoned houses that have never been sold to anybody, just left there to rot and be condemned. Businesses that haven't opened its doors in years, just empty buildings falling apart. And, there's like $1 General every once in a while, one gas station every once in a while, one little local diner every once in a while, but it's really not as big and bustling as it used to be. It's really compact and tight-knit.
Yeah, and so to go back to my earlier point is that how the way of life out there is dying. There was a rationale for voting for Trump in 2016, and they called it the Flight 93 election. And we all No, Flight 93. That was the flight of 9/11 where the passengers stormed the cockpit and saved the U.S. Capitol building by crashing a plane. The idea...
we have no idea.
No, it was the Capitol building. It was confirmed
really?
that it was the Capitol building. Yeah.
Okay.
So the idea is that, and this is kind of the nihilism that really kind of the GOP has embraced now, is that if things are just going, the whole republic is going to rack and to ruin, then it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter who you're voting for. You just got to get in that cockpit and get them out now, because they're about to drive the entire country off the cliff. And to be fair, we were kind of guilty of this as well in 2020 with, we were basically saying, listen, vote blue no matter who. It doesn't matter if it's Joe Biden, if it's Bernie Sanders, if it's my dearly departed grandfather. You got to vote for them to save the country from Trump. Now, granted, the difference between 2016 and 2020 is that in 2016, you didn't have much to go on except, 20 years of propaganda about Hillary Clinton, whereas in 2020, you had actual results from Donald Trump, not to mention like 300 to 400,000 Americans who were actually dead. So, but this is the kind of mentality now that the people out here embrace. Is why it's like, this is why, when it's a Barack Obama, when it's a AOC, when it's a Bernie Sanders coming at them about this great, big, glorious, technocratic future, these people, and Sharp, tell me if I'm wrong here, when, a Bernie Sanders comes to you saying about this great, big, glorious, progressive future for all the people, primarily in the cities, your response is probably going to be, you know what? Fuck off. I gotta go get my food from a fucking, food bank. Why should I buy into your ideology,
Yeah, and flat out. Like, wokeness doesn't work here. SoCal doesn't work here. Taking away our guns, which is that single issue we talked about in the previous podcast.
That died about roughly Sunday.
It doesn't work here. And here's the thing, right? We know if you pass a law like that, we can put up a fight and win. You know why? No one comes out here. Nobody even knows we exist. They'll come here expecting it to be super easy to knock on somebody's door and take our shit. When they get a fight, they'll be extraordinarily surprised.
I thought they would only come here just to make us vote for them or something.
They'll actually be extraordinarily surprised that... See, it's the thing, right? There's not a whole lot to do out here in rural America. So you know what we do in our pastime?
Basically,
when you're far enough from a police station, whatever the hell you feel like. Yeah. There's a guy about a few yards away from here that shoots propane tanks in his backyard for fun.
My family pretty much just, before we even have any sort of internet, we basically just, my dad would normally just go out, get a few cases of beers. Some people drive by and they talk about what's been happening recently and all that stuff. And just normally, sometimes we even have a fire going and they just talk and share stories and whatnot.
Mm-hmm. And there's actually a big secret here, right? That guy has shook many houses, has caused a lot of noise and a lot of disturbances. No one has called the police on him.
Do you wanna?
It's not necessarily a question of do you wanna, because here's the thing, right? As a tightly woven community, a lot of the cops here, there's one police station, a lot of the people here are local. Because, everybody's just kind of forgotten about us. Sometimes we're not even on the commission roster. Or the routes on your GPS are fucked up. There are certain bridges that don't exist anymore, certain roads that don't exist anymore. You can't navigate this place with a GPS. Trust me.
I mean, fuck. I ended up finding out that, fucking Google Maps and Google Earth didn't even come by my parents' house until, 6 years ago. And how long has Google Maps been a thing?
By the way, one singularity I think that is a really common misconception is people down here don't like technology. No, we actually really like technology. We've used it as a practical tool to educate ourselves in ways that we couldn't afford.
But you're probably not going to be on Twitter or Snapchat or anything like that.
Yeah, you know, half the time a redneck will actually show you a YouTube video of a guy doing target practice with his favorite gun. Like, we know what YouTube is. We know what Google is. We know what Wikipedia is. We know how to search for articles and things, and we do. And while some could argue that's part of the problem, we're a lot more intelligent than most metropolitan areas try to give us want to give us credit for. They all like to say we're all like Alabama, really. Like,
No, Indiana does not fuck with its own sisters and cousins.
or
At least
we're
as
a
far as
bunch
I know.
of or we're a bunch of racists and homophobes. And while I can say there's quite a few of them here, and you really shouldn't be openly gay or a minority living in rural America, unless you're tough. Like, I mean, we have black people that live in the community, but that's just the thing, right? They're a minority here too. There's like 2 or 3 or 4, maybe 5 that had the balls to come down here and live here.
Wow.
And nobody fucks with them because guess what they've got? A gun too. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, there's only like I only saw like one guy in my town for the past like fucking 6 years. He was only driving a delivery truck. I never seen a black person ever living in here and in this either this building.
Oh, it's
Well,
uncommon. It's uncommon. It's like an
Yeah.
Aurora Borealis when it happens. I'm not gonna.
An Aurora Borealis localized entirely in the kitchen of some superintendent.
Is that the Blackman?
Oh my god! Oh my god!
That's the dog barking through the microphone to say,
I hate
not
to
up.
admit it, but that's literally how it is. If a black guy moves here, that's the talk of the town for the next 3 weeks.
Oh my god, a black man!
It's not even that they're scared of him, right? Like, the natural response
We've
is like,
never-
oh, he's probably
I've
gonna
rarely
steal
seen a
our
black guy
shit.
where I live.
No, it's like some holy grail. They're just enamored by it. They're stupefied by it. They're like,
it's-
wait, he actually came to live here?
It's the stuff of legend. The
I fucking
legendary
hate this place.
Negroid.
I fucking hate this place. I'd move out.
Oh my lord!
Like, yeah, rural America lives okay, right? We're in like a small double wide house. It ain't paradise. We rent. We rent. I mean, Jesus Christ. Like,
Why don't we talk about something
Yes.
that should be done with rural America? In fact, all of America right now, because Biden has revealed Infrastructure Week. Why don't we go down that?
big deal, Infrastructure Week. Biden, if you want to get that 3,500 kbps internet out here, totally on board with that. Like, right, this part of Ohio, the Highland County District, already has some pretty decent internet. We got Time Warner, Xfinity. We got options, right?
Wish I had those options. Only stuck with AT&T.
Talk about getting something better than dial-up or satellite internet out in rural Oklahoma. I really want to be able to play games with Kiba again.
Yeah. So yeah, all right. So the Infrastructure Week. By the way, I just saw this. Secretary Pete, he's not Mayor Pete anymore, he's Secretary Pete now, just tweeted out, okay, now it's Infrastructure Week. So Pete's got jokes, because you'll recall that during the previous administration, it was a running gag that every week was Infrastructure Week, and
I will
it
say
never
this, though.
happened.
Like, I will finish off what I was saying, though,
Okay.
with when Gonzo asked me what can be done to improve rural America, give us better internet. You might think we don't want it, but we do.
I mean,
We use it.
I'm stuck
We
on
use
AT&T,
it.
man.
We go on YouTube, we go on Facebook, and we bitch about the fact that it's loading too slow. Please fix that first world problem for us.
I mean,
We don't-
yes. Everybody I know has fiber optic internet, but here I am, way deep in the sticks of Indiana, with the fastest that AT&T can give me.
It's actually really funny. This is probably the order issues in rural America will go. 1, fix the healthcare system. 2, get my husband Medicaid. 3, man, I want better internet. I'm trying to play COD. I'm not kidding. Call of Duty is like a national fucking pastime around here.
Or at least,
like on the surface, right? You would look at people like Jack Thompson, the media, the way people portray everything. These people with video games have no laurels and prospects. My brother, literally, my half brother, right? Literally lives pouring down fucking concrete and limestone for people, right? He goes home and plays on a PlayStation. Like, the manliest fucking description rural job you can get, and that man plays video games, so fuck off with that shit.
At least he's venting whatever frustrations he had on a job in a safe environment instead of, I don't know, grabbing an AK-47 and shooting up all his fellow employees.
Oh, god damn, you mean that doesn't happen every day? Oh, I'm so shocked. Back to what you were saying, Helios.
All right, so let's go ahead and talk about the infrastructure plan here. So this is the first plan we've gotten in a while now, and I think the first paragraph of this article from the Washington Post summarizes the whole thing. It's a $2 trillion plan for infrastructure and green energy. So we're kind of combining Infrastructure Week and Climate Change Week here, and Republicans have called it a partisan wish list. The progressives think it's not sufficient to combat climate change, and even the centers are like, wait a minute, do we really want to be spending more money already? So,
well, you've been allocating a lot of money for a border wall that did barely jack all. What's a few?
Yeah, I mean, so basically, no one is happy with this plan, which means it's got a real shot of actually getting passed. So, all right, so let's kind of break it down.
Likes it, so it's gonna pass.
Do another budget reconciliation.
Well, at least it would if we had like serious people in government, because I've talked about before, like. This is one of those things where, like, nobody is completely happy with it, but in theory, everyone would get something out of it. So let's go ahead and break down what the plan would entail. So for the home infrastructure, we're looking at $698 billion here. And it breaks down into things like clean drinking water, so all the lead pipes, like what caused the crisis in Flint. There's a lot of lead pipes around the country; those would all be replaced. High-speed broadband, which we just talked about. Yes. Electrical infrastructure, so this is things like putting in charging stations for electric vehicles. Affordable and sustainable housing, and make of that what you will. Public funding for public schools, early learning centers, free community college, as well as about $30 billion in other expenses. Transportation infrastructure, this is about $621 billion for this. So $115 for highways, bridges, and roads. $85 billion for public transit, $80 billion for passenger and freight rail, $174 billion for electric vehicles, $42 for airports, water transit, and ports, $45 for transportation and equities, $50 for infrastructure resilience, and $30 billion for a bunch of other stuff. R&D and workforce development and manufacturing, $180 for R&D, $300 billion for manufacturing and small businesses, $100 billion for workforce development, and then $400 billion for home and community-based care for elderly and disabled people. So, how are we going to pay for all this? Well, you're looking at a lot of tax hikes on businesses. The plan includes raising the corporate tax from 21%, where it is now, to 28%. The global minimum tax page will be bumped from 13% to 21%. Fossil fuel companies would no longer get tax breaks. In fact, tax enforcement would be ramped up against corporations. They're also proposing up to $400 billion in clean energy credits for firms, although those costs have not been detailed. So as you can imagine, congressional Republicans have balked at the tax increases. The responses ranged from measured responses like Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell to then you have Senator John Bissaro of Wyoming, who's the chair of the Senate Republican Conference, said it's an out-of-control socialist spending spree reflecting the left's radical agenda.
Oh, come on.
Okay, I guess broadband internet, and highways that don't have holes in them are socialist agendas now.
Better yet, this thing is going to create jobs. This thing might create jobs. You're going to be going against job creating the party who pretty much was boasting about how under Trump Jobs was created under him more and more every single day. You're going to deny people the fucking opportunity to get a job?
That's the thing. When you're enacting infrastructural change, I'm always expecting some kind of price hike unless you're going to go around like massively commissioning third-party businesses with the tax that you have, which probably isn't out of the question because it often seems government bodies are very aware when their contractors are incompetent. So
You'd think so.
Sometimes. Like, it's really weird. We have a combination between private government contractors being the people to improve infrastructure, and then sometimes third-party businesses being commissioned through third-party contracts. That's actually what's going on with my company currently helping out with the vaccine effort here in Ohio. Mm-hmm. We helped make a lot of the circuit boards for the coolers. I've mentioned this before. But the thing people don't look at, we might hate big government, but anybody that likes to keep their job in a pandemic where you have to be deemed essential in order to keep it loves a government contract. If you're government contracted, you're automatically deemed essential.
I'll tell you what my dad once told me. If all else fails, get a government job because they'll hire you.
Yeah.
Most of the time anyway. But if I may. So as I mentioned, Republicans aren't on board because taxes, and even for the Republicans the few Republicans left that aren't crazy, taxes are still a thing. So that's one thing to keep in mind.
I hate and love taxes.
Yeah.
I don't.
Now, so on the Democratic side, you have the Progressive Caucus, this being AOC and her band of sisters plus one brother. They say it's not enough when it comes to climate change because it's not the Green New Deal. The centrist Democrats are a little hesitant to sign off on another spending package. And 3 House Democrats have already said they will not vote for the package because it doesn't reverse a cap on state and local tax deductions from the tax bill that Trump passed. So, and also a number of priorities critical to congressional Democrats, including an extension on the expanded child credit, a major expansion in health insurance coverage, subsidies for child care, and free access to community colleges. They're not part of this package, but they're part of another White House spending package that will probably be unveiled in the coming weeks. So, the White House is willing to negotiate with this because Biden. So let me lay this out for you. Biden knows the GOP's game here because he's seen it before back in 2009, when you have Mitch McConnell get elected to the Senate and says, well, our main objective is to make sure that Barack Obama's only a one-term guy. And Biden himself said that there were Republican senators who told him, like, listen, we'd like to help you, but we'd much rather get elected. So he knows that he may talk up all he wants about wanting to get Republicans on board with this, but there's probably nothing he can do to really get them on board.
Unless it keeps them in office.
Yeah, and he did call McConnell, and McConnell called the plan a Trojan horse, saying that the blueprint to upgrade the infrastructure, namely the roads, the bridges, the waterways, the sewer systems, relies on more borrowing and massive tax increases in all the productive parts of our economy. First of all, what productive parts? That's number one. And number two, like you didn't sit idly by while Trump spent money like a drunken socialist sailor for 4 years. And I mean, look, let's just be honest, okay?
They all did.
The budget hawk is extinct. The budget hawk is extinct. Nobody gives a fuck about the deficit anymore. I'm not necessarily saying that's a good thing, but anyone who suddenly prepares to care about fiscal responsibility on the Hill is lying to you.
It's a consequence, though, right? When you establish a government that had essentially said for almost 4 years, oh, hey, government spending, we're doing all this government spending, but none for you.
Yeah.
No, we're just gonna...
And then it's like the second we realized you had all this fucking money to spend, we're looking at that situation and we're just thinking, what about me?
Yeah, exactly.
It's not like everybody's gonna go fucking broke with tax hikes. We just
lie to me. I'll punch you in the fucking nose. I know you got money, McConnell. He's got like fucking pants full of gold and like rubies falling out of his back pocket. I got no money.
Not only that, all the tax credits of all the major corporations I mean, that means they got plenty of money to offer to funnel into the government, so that way we can have some roads so they can do businesses on.
You ain't got no money. It's dangerous for the national deficit, but spend.
Yeah.
Spend. One of these things is not like the
Now,
other.
also, now let's talk about the one part of the proposal that actually might get some legitimate contention at the state level. The bill would end right to work across the nation. And right now you have 27 states, including my home state of Michigan, that have right to work laws. So it also includes the PRO Act, which is explicitly a pro-union act designed to strengthen the power of unions. The fact that you're going to have federal law kind of trumping over state law here, this may cause some contention. And I'm kind of surprised I haven't seen more Republicans come out about the right to work being repealed yet. My imagine is that they're still trying to play up the general socialist angle, but yeah.
They're still talking about green eggs and ham, you know how.
Well, that too. I mean, that too. They're much more concerned about Mr. Potato Head's gender crisis than the budget right now.
That's the point, Gonzo. It's not even banned.
Yeah.
Fucking what? But first off, okay, one
you
question.
You expect them to actually know what the fuck they're talking about?
I was trying to ask about what the fuck right to work is.
Yeah, so right to work's a little dodgy, because, like, on the surface, right, we essentially have certain places that are union-bound, which is like they have a union built directly into the company. Now, don't fool yourself. At times, these are faux unions, because you really got to think about it. A union paid for and owned by the company that asks that you pay your dues is essentially the propaganda Amazon's using to say, oh, hey, no union. Never mind the fact that it would be completely your choice because the corporation's not starting it.
Yeah, so let me try to break this down here, okay? Because I actually learned about these back at Michigan when we were debating passing this on a state level. So there are certain jobs where basically the right to work laws in the United States, they refer to laws that prohibit union security agreements between employers and labor unions. Under these laws, employees in unionized workplaces are banned from negotiating contracts which require employees who are not union members to contribute to the cost of union representation. So what that means is, let's say you come work here for the Ford. You go to work at the plant down at the Rouge River, like a lot of other people in Detroit do. You're represented by the UAW. You are under no obligation to join the UAW, but the UAW can still ask you to pay for their dues, okay? So even though you have chosen not to join the union and therefore get no benefits from it, you're still being asked to pay the dues. The right to work laws basically say, no, you don't have to, if you don't join the union, you don't have to pay the dues. I mean, it sounds good in practice, but in theory at least, but what ultimately ends up happening is that they don't really provide first of all, they don't provide a guarantee of employment. That's kind of the law is kind of misleading. It doesn't provide a guarantee of employment. Okay, right to work doesn't mean you have a right to have a job. It just means you have a right to not have to pay a union for their dues. It also, of course, is an anti-union law at its core because it puts a check on the power of the unions, and it ultimately has resulted in people saying that because they put a tax on unions, it decrease job safety and increase income inequality. And Sharp, you were saying that it's an anti-worker law as well in our group chat.
Yeah. To some degree, it is. I'm really iffy about unions because, right? So I understand the purpose of them, right? The counterbalance to the corporate powers and shit like that. Without them, the corporate power basically has no real opposition because at times legislatures are in the pocket of the businesses and no real laws are going to get passed for the sake of ethics unless there's a union to attempt to sabotage these nefarious efforts. I get that. A lot of the unions here in Ohio just make it impossible to fire idiots.
Yeah.
Like, that's their purpose. That's what they do here. is these people. Like, I'll give you an example. A guy sets down his COVID mask to go to the bathroom. Never mind why the fuck the guy did that, but he's pretty dumb. But one of his coworkers walks over and farts in the guy's COVID mask laying on the table.
Yikes.
This is something that actually happened.
Oh, boy.
The union tried to fight the firing of this guy. Why?
What?
He's an idiot. He's an idiot. He makes you look terrible. Why would you defend him?
What?
He's a bad faith member.
You farted in the man's mask.
Well, apparently funding is so important to unions, they'll defend even the worst of us. Now,
Yes. I
in
remember you
practice-
told me a story about
Yeah.
a guy who kept hitting himself in the head with a hammer. With the union was like, "Oh, you gotta keep him."
Yeah, and eventually the guy fucking cracked his skull. He was mentally indigent. He shouldn't have been working at a fucking die casting plant.
Oh shit!
Why? Like, and this is what I don't get, right? I get that we're all about, like, worker inclusivity and stuff like that, and we want the mentally indigent to have the ability to work. But there are some people so nefarious, they will literally take their mentally indigent son, toddler-level intelligence, say that, oh yeah, he has a right to work, put him in there, and then just sponge off his paychecks. Meanwhile, this guy's literally killing himself because he doesn't know how to use a fucking toolbox.
Mm-hmm.
And the union's all like, yeah, we're for that.
Yeesh.
Fuck off. Are you serious? Who are you fighting
for this man who clearly
Who are you fighting for?
is not qualified for this job to crack his skull.
I'll tell you what, if there's unions, there should be fucking multiple unions per company so unions have to compete. There's my ultimatum. Because if they're allowed to get away with stupid shit like this, how the fuck has there not been a Sandy Hook at a union meeting? Seriously.
Yeesh. Oh boy. We're getting a little dark here.
I'll pull it back, but Ohio unions are shit. That's the most I can say about them.
Mm-hmm.
They are full of corrupt people that don't seem to give a fuck about the worker. Despite that, I am pro-union simply because of the counterbalance.
Yes.
Do not mistake that for the idea that I like the situation I'm in.
Mm-hmm.
I am I am in a state full of unions who believe worker prioritization means letting a mentally indigent man smash his brains in till his heart's content. Well, we're getting those union dues, so I guess it don't matter. What are you fighting for, honestly? Because, like, where were you, union, when my dad was being forced to work harsh hours and overtime under these people who were yelling at and berating people? They had, like, a fucking Japanese work style. They had asbestos in the vents and the walls. Where were you?
Okay, yeah, the asbestos thing, that's like, see, you gotta call somebody about that. I mean, holy fuck.
Corrupt state. People have called someone before. I don't know if it was the unions per se, but do you know why this company gets to stay up?
Why?
Because these Japs are vital to Ohio infrastructure. Oh, and they have the Japanese business model where they will pull you into a room and reprimand you cruelly. Like we're talking.
You are going against the daimyo's orders.
You bring great dishonor to this corporation.
Dishonor on your corporation, dishonor on your family, dishonor on your cow.
And then never mind the fact that, so just because the union's bad, don't mean corporate's great. In fact, that's what makes me even more pissed at the union, because so far, when it comes to the particular company my dad used to work in, which I'm glad he doesn't work there anymore. He quit. He retired. But the union certainly wasn't doing its job in keeping the balance of power. At all. Like, these corporate bodies could practically abuse their employees in a fucking steel mill, basically. Molten hot metal. If you fell in, your fucking leg fell in a furnace, it was cooked like fried fucking chicken. No hazard pay. Like, yikes. Dental's good, though. That's all that was good.
Mm-hmm.
The daimyo gives you good dental care and only that.
They didn't.
Okay, remember how I said in our crosstalk about how the future in Cyberpunk 2077 was not realistic? Maybe I was wrong about that. If we're gonna have corporations start adopting Japanese methods of reprimanding employees, and maybe it's a bit more realistic than I thought.
It's this really stupid loophole, right? Like the fat cats at the top and stuff, they're Americans. But the domain is Japanese owned, and the Japanese force their ethics on that plant.
Wow. That's...
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it could be worse. They could be otakus.
Fuck you.
Listen, okay, you want to talk about that. At least the otakus would be a bit more lenient.
Hush up. We don't talk positive about otakus. No, I'm kidding. There is something positive to say about otakus. At least they're fighting the system in their own impressive way.
By the way, bit of breaking news here. This comes from the Gateway Pundits Parlor account.
Oh, God.
Former President Trump announces he's thinking about holding a rally soon to let everyone know there's hope in the future. I guess he's bored down in Magistan, I guess. So,
I guess he did. Because,
yeah,
okay,
what?
So I also heard, I bet he didn't get very many people. Okay, so he released his website.
Oh, yeah, the website!
Yeah. Or if I have to, I'll censor the site. Basically, he pretty much just opened himself up. Hey, I'm hiring. I like to be involved in parties. You like to invite me? Just to be aware, we don't have any status updates. Because the whole thing is like, he's looking for something
I'm looking
to
at
do
this
besides
website now. I'm looking at the
all the
website
time.
right now, and honestly, looks like they just hired a bare bones. They just bought like a bare bones template website.
Also, Gonzo suggestion: if you're censoring the website, censor it with the random desk moans I've been making while I was muted.
Oh my god!
God.
I've just been going.
How is it that Scarlet is not here and we're verging into Sharpcast After Dark territory?
Twice.
Sharpcast After Dark is not a thing until we start doing naked DDR. Then it's a thing.
Yeah,
Fuck you,
That was not my original joke, by the way, and Gonzo can attest.
Naked DDR.
That one's from our lovable green pwn.
No.
Yeah. I gotta see here. Okay,
stream, Gonzo.
There is
this podcast. Love you, Kiba.
There is a request for greeting from Donald Trump on the website. It says, okay, first of all, so you can send him I'm looking at the website right now. You can send him an email. You can schedule a request for him to show up at the events. It says here, due to the volume of invitations that President and Mrs. Trump receive, we will not provide status updates. Thank you for your understanding. You can even request a greeting from him, where you have to allow 6 weeks because of the volume of requests. I'm sitting there thinking, can we take advantage of this in any way? Can we somehow dupe this guy into recording an intro for the Sharpcast?
I would. Oh my god! Not that I want to.
All I'm thinking is
but
the actual Donald Trump just going, "I am Holy Knight to Naruto."
But the curiosity wells in me.
Look.
Could we do it?
Look, if Rick and Molly could trick Sebastian Gorka into giving their podcast a shout out, I think we can pull this off. I think we could trick Donald Trump into telling people to watch the Sharpcast.
I don't remember who Sebastian Gorka is, actually.
Sebastian Gorka. He is the Dragon of Budapest. He was he's a character. We'll go with that. This is the guy I told you about, who is like one of Trump's advisors, and he's got like the Art of War vanity license plates. He's a literal fish oil salesman as well. I should point that out. Like, the doctor in his title is a theoretical in concept. But yeah, I really think we could probably trick these people into getting Donald to record an introduction for the Sharpcast.
That being said, we would be opening a fucking can of worms if we did that.
Oh, I
There's
knew it'd
no
be.
question. Sharpwing, how could you exploit the system that he put in place? I'm sorry. It's in my nature. I'm a rural American. All we do is exploit the system. It's how we survive. You think we play fair with our own, not the government. They cheated us. So we cheat them back. It's blackjack.
Yes.
And we
especially
get the
in case
hookers and blow.
Yeah. Speaking of, people from the previous administration were dumb, I think it's time we got to my segment.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
we are going to have fun with this one today, folks. We are talking about one of our returning favorite congressmen here on the program, Matt Gaetz of Florida. Matt Gaetz, he's a guy that we've discussed in the past here on the show. He is a guy that I refer to as a CPA, a certified public asshole. And just to kind of give you all a bit of a reminder as to the kind of life Matt Gaetz leads. First of all, this is a guy whose Twitter bio, and I'm not making this up here, his Twitter bio includes the words Florida man. He chooses to identify as a Florida man. And just think about that for a second. So,
You'd rather be associated with all the crackheads and dope heads and all the tweaked out, fucking over-medicated people that do the strangest shit almost on a daily basis?
Yep.
Look, Gonzo, I love you. We'll have Grumpy Hour with Gonzo if you want it, but this is Helios' time, man.
Yeah, so, anyway, just to give you all an idea of Gaetz' rap sheet. First of all, let's go back to 2008 when he got a DUI. I mean, like, a DUI. This guy failed this guy absolutely refused to do the field sobriety test, refused to take a breathalyzer test. He actually got, between 1999 and 2014, he got 16 speeding tickets in Florida. I mean, that's, at that point, it's like, you know what, dude, get a bicycle. Okay, get a bicycle, take the bus, just don't fucking drive, okay? If you can't follow the freaking speed limit, how the hell are you supposed to be a representative? But I digress. But that was before his illustrious career as a congressman. So, in 2017, one of his legislative aides wrote a resolution that Gaetz brought to the House Judiciary Committee, and the resolution alleged that James Comey leaked investigative matters to a reporter for the New York Times, starting when the said reporter was about 10 years old, mind you. And by the way, if you're wondering where the source of this intel came from, it was, and I'm really not making this up here, it came from the Donald. This guy literally, this guy sent a resolution to the House Judiciary Committee based on a post from the Donald. Oh my God. By the way, guys, feel free to react on this one because this is just ridiculous here, and I don't want to keep you guys holding in your groans or laughs or whatever on this one.
I just find it fucking silly that of all the sources, they went to Reddit. Reddit is not the best place for anything new. Most of the shit is recycled shit.
Oh, man. I will say something I never thought I would say. The Donald, it's not your fault.
Nope, not this time. Not this time.
No.
So then in 2018, he decided to invite a fellow by the name of Charles C. Johnson to the State of the Union address. Now, Gaetz said that apparently Johnson showed up at his office and Gaetz just decided to give him a ticket that his dad couldn't use because of an illness. Apparently, Johnson was also invited by several members of Congress. Here's where it gets a little murky. Charles C. Johnson is a legit Nazi. Like, I'm not even joking. This is not, I'm not talking about like an edgy guy. This is a guy who raised money for the Daily Stormer and is a Holocaust denier. So this guy does everything but the jackbooted goose step, of course.
Ooh, shit.
Then in 2019, when Michael Cohen was supposed to give a public hearing before the House Oversight Committee, Gaetz tweeted at Cohen that he apparently was cheating on his wife and suggested his wife might be unfaithful to him while he was in prison, which people saw, is that intimidation? Is that what intimidation there? And so on and so forth. And then Gaetz appeared actually at the hearing despite not being on the House Oversight Committee. The Florida Bar actually investigated Gaetz for this, but ultimately found no probable cause that Gaetz had violated his rules. And then October of 2019, during the investigation to the Ukraine affair, Gaetz was the asshole who organized the storming of the secure room on Capitol Hill, which, as a reminder, is a federal crime, by the way, so good for you. And then in the last year, Gaetz really kind of went off the deep end. First of all, in March of 2020, during a House debate on funds to combat the COVID-19 pandemic, Gaetz decided to show up wearing a gas mask. And then he, if you recall, that the CPAC of 2020 turned out to be one of the first super spreader events for COVID-19. Gaetz was in contact with this person, had to self-quarantine for 14 days, even though he did not test positive for the virus. He also promoted the theory that that COVID-19 was actually a bioweapon created by the Chinese, which Tucker Carlson is trying to bring back. We'll talk about him more in a little bit. Then in November 7th, he did test positive for COVID-19, so he did actually catch the damn thing at some point in time. And then the very next month, he's at the that meeting of the Young Republicans Club in New Jersey while COVID-19 was surging throughout the state. And you'll recall that the governor of New Jersey tweeted at him saying, get the fuck out of my state. You're not welcome here. And also, one last method here is that in 2020, he during the George Floyd protests, Gaetz tweeted, now that we clearly see Antifa as terrorists, can we hunt them down like we do to those in the Middle East? So yeah, charming there.
Yes.
He also apparently spent more than $200,000 in taxpayer funds renting an office from a Pensacola real estate developer and restaurateur, which may or may not be ethics violations. He also spent tens of thousands of dollars for speechwriting consultant, having a private company install a TV studio in his dad's home in Niceville, Florida, which Gaetz uses whenever he goes on television, and so on and so forth. And he also skipped out various votes this year to go to CPAC. But all that's a precursor to what's going on right now.
This
is
juicy.
So this is good. So a few days ago, it was reported that by Axios that Matt Gaetz might be looking to leave Congress. He was actually considering not running for re-election in 2022 and taking a job at a right-wing media outlet. Newsmax was the one cited, though. Apparently, Gaetz told the Daily Beast that he actually had conversations with people from Newsmax, OAN, and Fox. Although Fox also told the Daily Beast that, no, we never talked to Gaetz and we are not interested in him at all. So this struck some people as kind of odd because Gaetz is one of the people who, in theory, might make a play for 2024. So what is the deal here? Well, it turns out the New York Times, per the New York Times report, the Department of Justice is investigating him as to whether or not he had a sexual relationship with a 17-year-old girl back in 2019. And specifically whether or not he violated federal sex trafficking laws by paying her to travel with him, because it is in fact illegal to cross U.S. state lines to engage in sex in exchange for money or something of a value with a minor. And by the way, just so everyone is aware, the age of consent in Florida is 18. So yes, the girl in question was a minor. Now, Gaetz has categorically denied the allegations, as you might assume. He has said he will not resign his House seat, although Kevin McCarthy has said that if the allegations are true, then Gaetz will be stripped of his committee assignments. Oh, good. Excellent, Kevin.
But here's the thing that I've learned as well, because I ended up taking a look. I looked at the full comment that Kevin McCarthy has made. He claims he has not heard about the New York Times report. He didn't hear anything from the Department of Justice. He's going to talk to Matt Gaetz before he even gets all that information, and we'll probably just side with Gaetz, because Gaetz is pretty much one of the Trumpiest of the Trumpian era GOP.
Of course he said that. Of course. I mean, again, this is the typical, response that we all saw during the Trump years. Whenever Trump would do something on Twitter, everyone was like, I didn't see that. I didn't read that. What is this Twitter you speak of? So now Kevin McCarthy's like, who are these New York Times? Sounds like a lefty propaganda outlet or something. That's what Kevin McCarthy's doing here. So Matt Gaetz is now spinning this whole story that what's really going on here is that this is actually a huge, massive extortion plot designed to I gotta get the other abuse report here. So he posted his dad apparently, this is from a report originally in the Washington Examiner. His dad, Don Gaetz, was given a document saying that they needed to pay $25 million to extract a guy named Bob Levinson. Bob Levinson is an FBI agent who disappeared in Iran in 2007, and supposedly a former Air Force intelligence official was trying to extort $25 million from Matt Gaetz' dad to get this guy out of Iran. By the way, I should add that Bob Levinson was declared legally dead last year, and there really is no evidence to suggest that the guy is alive in Iran at all. But I need to read the document for you guys, because this is, I don't know what to make of this whole thing. This is like one of those things this is like QAnon levels of lunacy here. So here it is. The document is titled Project Homecoming, and it is as follows. The facts of Project Homecoming are described below. Congressman Matt Gaetz is currently under investigation by the FBI for various public corruption and public integrity issues. The investigation is being handled by the Public Integrity Division of the Department of Justice and is being managed out of the Washington, D.C. field office. The Office of the U.S. Attorney from the Middle District of Florida is overseeing the potential criminal case. The FBI became aware of compromising pictures depicting Congressman Gaetz and an election official involved in a sexual orgy with underage prostitutes in Maitland, Florida, during an unrelated investigation into political corruption and public integrity in another criminal case. Subsequent information resulted in Congressman Gaetz becoming a target of a widening investigation into serious underage sex trafficking, political corruption, public integrity, and other criminal allegations against Congressman Gaetz and others. A grand jury has been impaneled in the Middle District of Florida to determine whether criminal charges shall be brought against Congressman Gaetz and others. It has been confirmed that at least one underage female has testified to the grand jury that Congressman Gaetz has paid her to engage in sexual activities. It has also been confirmed that other individuals who are facing serious criminal allegations themselves have testified at the grand jury and have agreed to testify against Congressman Gaetz at any future criminal proceedings. Our strategy for Congressman Gaetz to mitigate his legal and political troubles would be for him or someone else to arrange for the funds required to obtain the immediate release of Robert Levinson from captivity in Iran. Robert Levinson has been a political prisoner for the past 14 years. In exchange for the funds being arranged and upon release of Robert Levinson, Congressman Gaetz shall be given credit for facilitating the release of Mr. Levinson. Congressman Gaetz shall also be on that plane that returns Mr. Levinson to freedom and shall be the person to reunite Mr. Levinson with his family and bring Mr. Levinson back to the United States. It also goes on to say that he will receive a full pardon from President Biden for any actions. So I don't know what to make of this.
Unfortunately, Gaetz has said that he's not going to be seeking a pardon from Biden. So
yes, because Gaetz went on an interview the other day with Tucker Carlson. Tucker invited him on to kind of clear his name. And the weird thing was that during the interview, Gaetz actually implied that Tucker could have been a witness to this, because at one point he says to Tucker, listen, you and I had dinner with a companion of mine. You were there. Your wife was there. And there was nothing illegal about that. And Tucker's reaction was, yeah, I have no idea what you're talking about. And which to me sounds like, oh, please God, don't let me go home to hear FBI open up. But yeah, Tucker actually later called it like the weirdest interview he's ever done. So if you've managed to weird out Tucker Carlson, I think there's something going on here. But so, and by the way, since this does involve the idea of minors being sex trafficked, I bet you're wondering, how is QAnon taking all this? Because these guys are fighting to free the kids from the evil sex cabals that are trafficking them around the world.
They're currently right now, as I ended up checking this out because the QAnons thought that the ship that was stuck in the Suez Canal, that's the ship that belongs to Evergreen, they thought that there was a bunch of sex trafficked children in those containers. Unfortunately, no.
Yeah.
They're still reeling in the fact that none of that happened in that particular ship. So
yeah, I mean, look, I know we were all disappointed a little bit when the ship got freed from the canal, but no one was more disappointed than the QAnons. But so I was curious to how QAnon was taking the Matt Gaetz thing, since it seems right up their alley. You will not be surprised to learn that they are defending the congressman. They think this is a false flag, this is entrapment. Never mind, by the way, and this is the kicker, this is nothing new. This investigation was actually started several months ago under William Barr. So if you had
William, is really fucked up. If William Barr is thinking that instead of Trump being investigated for all this shit, you are going to be investigated for this sketchy ass shit.
Yeah, I mean, it's William Barr. This is a guy who was basically Trump's personal consigliere and attorney. So the fact that apparently he didn't try to kill this right away, or at least he saw enough to let it continue, that says to me that something's going on here. Now, as far as the extortion plot goes, here's my thought. There is a possibility that both stories are true here. There is a possibility that there is actually an investigation into Congressman Gaetz being run by the Department of Justice, and it's possible that someone tried to extort Gaetz with this over it becoming public. Okay, that is a possibility. Having said that, I do not believe for a second that someone is trying to get $25 million as part of an elaborate scheme to get a dead FBI agent out of Iran. I don't believe that for a minute. I think that's Gaetz kind of putting on the bullshit meter there to kind of draw the thing about himself. And for what it's worth, he did name a specific official at the DOJ who was after him. That official, I believe his name was, let me see if I can find his name here. I can't find his name. Oh, here it is. His name is Don McGee, I believe. And he has said that, David McGee, rather. He said that that what Gaetz is saying is completely false. He's full of shit here. And another DOJ official, and Rick actually retweeted this, by the way, because this is the kind of stuff that he's obviously been paying attention to, because the Lincoln Project just loves Matt Gaetz. He retweeted a comment from a DOJ official who was asked about this, and it implied there could be more than one girl involved in this, because the actual comment itself, which I'm trying to find here on the old Twitter.
I think I got it. I shared it in the Sharpcast heated Discord. Let me get that up real quick.
Yeah, here it is, right here. So, this again comes from David McGee, and he says, this is a blatant attempt to distract from the fact that Gaetz is apparently about to be indicted for sex trafficking girls, as in girls in plural.
Yes.
Yeah.
Plural.
And honestly, and this was brought up by Asha Rapanga, who is a former FBI special agent and an analyst for CNN. She points out, that a case that has progressed from the investigative phase to the U.S. Attorney's Office, you can't make that go away without leaving a paper trail that would be obvious and would open you to obstruction charges. So I think that when it comes to the idea that that Gaetz, that someone told Gaetz he can make this go away, I think he's full of shit in that regard.
Yeah, and he thinks he's going to out-Trump it all, because one of the tweets he also said, one of the tweets basically from yesterday, he basically demands, and I quote, "I demand the DOJ immediately release the tapes made at their direction which implicate the former colleagues in crimes against me based on false allegations." He's trying to do this as like Trump would do, as like what Trump tried to do when he's trying to investigate the investigators who pretty much signaled the investigation of the Russia probe, which never fucking happened.
Yeah.
Gaetz is in fucking deep shit. Let's not mince words here.
Yeah. But hey, don't worry. If he's guilty, he'll have his committee assignments removed.
Yeah.
Or if worse comes to it, he won't be having a job anymore.
Well, so look, I mean, Matt Gaetz. Let me see what district does he run out of here. He runs out of Florida. Florida
I
1.
assume the full force of the DOJ will come down on a.
Absolutely.
We'll say for YouTube standards, scandalous politician.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, this is Merrick Garland's DOJ now, and as I've established, Merrick Garland doesn't play around. So anyway, Matt Gaetz runs out of Florida 1, and that is right in the Florida Panhandle. That is firm Republican territory. This is an R+22 district, so I don't necessarily think this would be electoral poison for him. But as we saw in the Alabama special election, if you're a literal pedophile, that might be enough to give Republicans cause to pause, because it turned out that the only reason Doug Jones won there in Alabama was because they tried to run a literal pedophile as an opponent. So I don't know,
but the pedophile.
But I will say that this stuff coming out, in tune with the rumors that Gaetz may be looking to leave Congress to take a job on the media. It does make sense. It may be that Gaetz may have been trying to get ahead of the story and just try to go get a nice secure deal with Fox before this caught up to him. But again, Fox apparently has no interest in hiring Matt Gaetz. And considering they just took on Laura Trump as a paid contributor, that's got to be pretty disheartening to Matt Gaetz. And they'll take on the wife of the failed son, and they won't take you. That's got to be pretty disheartening there to old Matt. But this is definitely a very interesting story here, and I think again, we'll have to see what this means for him politically speaking. But if this has already gone far enough to the point that the U.S. Attorneys is looking into this, then if they do find something, and again, we don't know for sure if they found anything. These are all just allegations and so on. This definitely could result in some criminal charges here for Matt Gaetz, and that could be a pretty big problem for his 2024 run.
But hey, committee assignments.
Committee assignments, like he'll be like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who
literally brought a gun into the chamber.
Yeah. By the way, Louis Gohmert, I just saw this today. Louis Gohmert got fined $5,000 for sneaking around the metal detector when trying to get into the house.
I can bring my gun. You think I won't shoot Pelosi in the fucking head?
I'm pro-gun, and even I know you don't take a gun to court. Why would you take a gun to
unless you have malicious intent?
The House of Representatives or the Senate chamber or any of that?
Yeah.
The only reason I would think of is malicious intent.
Well, there's a reason our girl Molly Jong Fast calls Louis Gohmert the dumbest man in Congress. So
I will admit, I will give Marjorie Taylor Greene the benefit of the doubt and say she was just using it as a signifier to her voting base.
Which her voting base, of course, is basically QAnon. So, yeah.
Yeah. So carrying a loaded gun into the House of Representatives chamber. Not that far-fetched. In fact, that's on the vanilla side of things.
Mm-hmm. Oh, by the way, so speaking of Marjorie Taylor Greene, as you all know, we're rolling out the vaccines. We got the vaccines rolling out pretty good. Marjorie Taylor Greene, not a fan of the vaccine. Not only is she one of 14 legislators who has not taken the vaccine, and 13 of them are Republicans, by the way. Marjorie Taylor Greene said that so we're talking about things like vaccine passports starting to become a thing now, and they're basically these little sheets of paper that says you've been vaccinated and you're good, you're fine, so you don't have to worry about that stuff. Marjorie Taylor Greene called them the Biden's mark of the beast.
This couldn't even come at a weirder time because, something sounding unrelated, but this will totally tie it back into Marjorie Taylor Greene's little mark of the beast comment, okay? Lil Nas X ended up making shoes from Nike shoes that have drops of blood and satanic imagery on it. And he was basically selling exactly 666 pairs of these shoes. Now, unfortunately, this did not go unnoticed because Governor Kristi Noem pretty much made this into another iteration of the satanic scare. Talking about trying to steal children's souls from God or whatever.
Yeah, Kristi Noem, she's whatever shot she had at actually being a serious candidate for 24, she's kind of blown up now. Like, she went from maybe being a possible VP pick to being like, I don't think so. But yeah, her and Marjorie Taylor Greene, first of all, calls the private companies who are mandating passports, she calls it corporate communism, which I don't really think corporations are compatible with communism. I don't
really.
I don't know, but honestly, like, all of her, her actual tweet was, they're actually talking about people's ability to buy and sell, linked to the vaccine passport. They might as well call it Biden's mark of the beast. And literally, like, all of her tweets are about these vaccine passports. I mean, I'm honestly surprised she hasn't come out and outright said that it's the Illuminati trying to try to brainwash you.
You know, I might as well bring this in too, but somebody else made a much more horrifying analogy with the whole vaccination policy.
Oh, yeah.
The Libertarian Party
have to say.
Libertarian Party of Kentucky, for context, if you guys will let me, please.
Go ahead.
They decided to tweet out this fucked up analogy, where the fuck are you?
It's right
that
here,
is
Gonzo.
yeah. Read the tweet for me then.
So, are the vaccine passports going to be yellow, shaped like a star, and sewn on your clothes?
Does that sound familiar to any of you?
Bruh.
If it does, you're smarter than these people, because they
Remember
just
Helios.
literally talked about Nazi Germany.
I specifically made a comment digging at Helios because I was just like, so, yeah, these people claim to be related to you.
Yeah, I mean, whoever is running the Libertarian Party of Kentucky Twitter account, please change the password and don't tell Rand Paul, because part of me believes that was him writing that tweet, because that sounds like a fucking Rand Paul thing to say right there.
Yeah, like, holy fucking shit.
Like,
that's number
seriously,
one.
Are you seriously trying to? Okay, first off, Marjorie Taylor Greene. Okay, she's just crazy. She's claiming that the vaccine passports are the mark of the beast. You know, the 666 on your head and satanic horns and all that shit. And that's possible. That's just Christian satanic panic bullshit that you can easily ignore. But to compare it to Nazi Germany trying to label the Jews, and then so that way they can be easily identified when they decided to pass the final solution, that cannot be, excusable. That's just crazy.
Oh, and by the way, Marge Taylor Greene had this to say about the Matt Gaetz situation. She tweeted, 11 hours ago, she tweeted, "Remember all the conspiracy theories and lies, the Trump-Russia collusion and propaganda and the media spread around. Take it from me, and rumors and headlines don't equal truth. I stand with Matt Gaetz." Yeah, one problem, Congresswoman, those headlines were all mostly accurate. So, yeah. I mean...
In further comments to that Libertarian Party comment, right?
Yeah.
So... some people here know this. The audience probably doesn't. Scarlett is an Ashkenazi Jew by heritage. And Scarlett actually managed to catch this tweet that Gonzo had posted.
Yes.
I can't even begin to form the words for how much rage this sparks in me.
Mm-hmm. Yep, she was, woo boy, she was livid. And Scarlett, I've known Scarlett for years. She's not the person who gets livid all that easily. Like, you have to kind of work to really get her, like, legitimately mad. And it honestly, I mean, the anti-Semitism aside, it's just a case where people are trying to be edgy, you know? We're trying to be edgy libertarians here, and, you know, any government regulation is clearly, the sign that we're on the road to Nazi Germany. It's like, guys, shut the fuck up, okay? First of all, you're making people like Justin Amash look bad. And to be fair, Justin Amash...
look bad.
Yeah, I know. And Justin Amash, not in favor of vaccine passports either. He actually tweeted this out the other day. Let me actually get that tweet for you because I still follow old Justin on the old Twitter here. If you recall, Justin Amash is a former congressman. He was it was like one of, if not the first Republican Republican representative rather, to criticize Trump, and he quickly got kicked out of the party. And you know, he decided, okay, fuck this, I'm out. After spending about 10 months being the first libertarian congressman. So this is his critique of the vaccine passport. So he tweeted this out 8 hours ago. A vaccine passport, a unified, centralized system for providing or denying access to everyday activities like shopping and dining, would be a nightmare for civil liberties and privacy, and would exacerbate existing social disparities connected to wealth, privilege, and race. I understand the congressman's opinion, or the former congressman's opinion. I disagree with it all the same. I do understand the concerns from a libertarian perspective. I understand the privacy concerns. I mean, having the government kind of track you down, all this stuff. I mean, yeah, from a libertarian standpoint, that's the kind of thing that makes you go, I don't know if I'm on board with that. But right now, we're not at herd immunity yet. Hopefully, we'll get to herd immunity in the next few months. But until that time, you do need a way to track down how who's been vaccinated, who has. And in fact, I remember from the movie Contagion, which, you know, I saw when all this is about to go down. It's kind of a predictor of how things will end up. And for the most part, we've done that, except we took longer because the movie was an unrealistically short period of time. In the movie, people who got vaccinated had to wear these little barcoded wristbands around wherever they went. And yeah, I mean, it's like they're not putting a fucking chip in you. Okay, they're just asking you to give you a little piece of paper to show that says, hey, I've been vaccinated, I'm fine, I'm not going to get you sick. In fact, you're probably not going to get me sick, so don't worry about it, you know?
I'm going to tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. Those of you who actually believe the government will take away your rights so easily. Let's say the government does take advantage of this goodwill. They try to enslave the people.
Uh-huh.
So, let's go with an extreme example. Adam Sutler in the V for Vendetta movie.
Ah, yes.
He took advantage of a pandemic in a serious crisis situation.
That he actually created, by the way.
Yeah, that he actually created. Oh, shit. Now we're going to have the conspiracies going down.
Well, I told you, they're trying to bring the Chinese bioweapon back.
But, and here's the thing. Whilst people felt compliant with like mandates and everything during the pandemic, they also fell complicit with all of Adam Sutler's other actions.
Mm-hmm.
His little worm away in taking away all systems of power, all abilities to keep him in check.
Yeah, I mean, so V for Vendetta is
the point I want to make, though, right?
Yeah.
It is not a pandemic and pandemic mandates and mask mandates and stuff like that alone that gets you to, well, fascist regime.
Yeah.
It's also standing by and doing nothing when the signs are fucking clear we're headed in that direction. That being said, adjust your eyesight because we're really not headed in that direction.
Yeah. So this is my take on this whole thing, and my take on security for a while now, and this is where I do part company from my libertarian colleagues, because I'm the kind of guy that says I was a guy who was not initially against the Patriot Act when it first came out. I wasn't even against things like, the wiretapping or whatever. And the reason for that is because at the time, we had an active threat. We had Al-Qaeda. They had just committed an attack against us. They had said they were willing to do so again. And so we needed to take some extra precautions to make sure that didn't happen. But as the years passed and we gradually began to capture or kill the leadership of Al-Qaeda up to and including bin Laden in 2011, that when I was like, all right, we're not facing an active threat. Let's go ahead and relax these measures. And the same thing's going on with this vaccine. When it comes to, whether it's mask mandates, social distancing, limitation on who can be open, who can't be open, believe me, I understand the economic impacts of this. I understand the psychological impacts of this, okay? I understand that this is going to suck for a lot of people. You know what? Pandemics are like that, okay? It's like a hurricane, okay? Yeah. When a hurricane comes to your city, you can't just go back out as soon as it's over and just go back to normal, okay? That doesn't happen. It can't happen.
We literally get mad each time people propose taking off the masks when we're not ready, or ending mask mandates, or trying to make everything go back to normal, pack the theaters and all that shit. We get mad about that stuff. We get mad about people fake coughing.
Yeah, I mean, and look, okay, so...
Yeah, we get mad about these things because each time you do that, it prolongs our return to normalcy.
Yes. And I'm not saying that everyone who's...
hate this too.
I'm not saying that everyone who wants to end the mandates is an asshole, because South Park did a couple specials on the pandemic and on vaccination, and I think it was one of them one of them, I can't remember if it was the first one or the second one, but Kyle was basically really against the lockdowns. I mean, first of all, you had Cartman, who of course was enjoying the pandemic because he was like, hey, fuck, this is great, I don't have to go do anything or whatever. So Cartman's, enjoying the pandemic for all the wrong reasons. But Kyle, of course, is very much against the lockdowns. He wants it to end. And at the end of the episode, they explain to him, like, listen, I just want to go back to how things used to be. I want to go back to how I was living my life. I don't want to have to deal with this. And it's like, listen, I get it. Nobody wants to have to deal with a once-in-a-century pandemic that has killed 3 million people around the world, okay? No one, not even the doomsday preppers want to deal with this, but ultimately we have to deal with this. We have to be smart about this. Otherwise, it's gonna be over later rather than sooner. Now, thankfully, we're in the final stretch of this because the vaccine is rolling out. People are getting vaccinated. I'm hoping to get my shot next week, but we still have to be smart about this.
I know that episode you're talking about too.
Yeah.
And Mr. Garrison was like still president, and it wasn't Kyle actually. It was Stan.
Oh, was Stan? Okay.
Yeah, it was Stan, and they were trying to get Butters to build a bear, and they were locked in the school because there was potentially exposure to COVID because of this really, really hilarious situation. So none of the teachers want to come back to the school, and because there's no crime, because the lockdowns and shit, the cops wind up having to take part-time jobs as teachers.
Oh, right. And they end up shooting what's his name, right?
They shoot Token. Yeah.
They shoot Token.
God.
Oh my God.
Oh my god, that was great. Yeah, that was because the episode itself was also kind of a critique of the whole Black Lives Matter thing, so they worked that into it as well. Yeah. But so yeah, like I understand people that just want to go back to their normal lives. I get that. Believe me, I kind of do as well. You know, even I'm a guy who doesn't like going out that much, so really it wasn't that big of a change for me. But now it's like, okay, I'm ready to kind of get back to normalcy here. And again, President Biden said by July 4th, hopefully we'll be able to kind of gather for Independence Day, more or less how we used to do without the masks or without, too much social distancing. My personal target for when things can start to kind of ramp up back to normalcy is May. And so far, we are on track with that, at least as far as Michigan is concerned. In fact, I just saw a report saying that LA hopes to have herd immunity by June. So if LA can have herd immunity, if a city like Los Angeles can have herd immunity by June, where it's not everyone has the vaccine, but enough people have the vaccine that you're going to keep outbreaks to a minimum. If we can get there, then I think we'll be in a pretty good spot. If major cities have herd immunity by like May or June, I think we'll be in a pretty good spot there. But that only happens if... Oh, go ahead, Ren.
Okay. I don't know what the situation is like in LA, but I'm kind of screwed in terms of needing to, in terms of like getting the vaccine. I qualify for getting the vaccine because I'm employed right now, but the problem is that I've told you before, there are a bunch of homeless colonies within walking distance from where I live right now.
Uh-huh.
And that's the thing. It's a high concentration. And don't get me started about my commute back from work. I have to walk from work to home, and like clockwork, every afternoon, I walk from home. There's a bunch of people in close quarters without masks, and there are people selling shit. Just this loud commotion. I feel that people are acting here in Oakland, acting like the virus is over when it's not.
Yeah, I mean, it's not, I said, this virus isn't over until either it's done with us or we get a jump on it. And thankfully, we're in the process of getting to that point. But, we're not there just yet. Again, it's like trying to go outside thinking the hurricane is over, but in reality, you're in the eye of the storm, and you still got to go through the eye wall. And we are seeing a rise in cases here in the United States, probably because of the spring break spreading the variants around. And the fact that these variants are starting to spread. The good news is that the vaccine works against most of these variants, but there is a non-zero chance we're going to have to get a new COVID vaccine every year because this virus is a nasty motherfucker and it mutates very, very, very fast. And especially since there's all these problems going on right now in like Europe and Asia with the distribution. Like, I saw that a report, some people are concerned that it might be a while before the entire planet has herd immunity. And that's mainly because of countries like here in the U.S., we're actually doing the best, believe it or not, when it comes to vaccine rollout. We're actually on the ball with this stuff here. Europe's having problems. Asia's having problems. Oceania's having some problems. Africa, there's almost no infrastructure in place there outside of maybe the Arabian Peninsula and South Africa and other nations like that.
I mean, China bottom, so there's that.
Yeah. Oh, Russia, of course. Well, also, we talked about Brazil last time. Brazil's just fucked.
Isn't the Arabian Peninsula in Asia?
It's right in the middle between Africa and Asia. Like, it's right there.
Isn't
it's
it
right there.
geographically speaking in Asia, though?
Maybe if you want to talk about it more, if it's in the Asian continent, but like you have countries like
if you count the entire Middle East, that spreads out to Africa. But
well, yeah.
You're talking the Arabian Peninsula. Out geographically speaking, that's in Asia.
Yeah, technically speaking, most not all of it's in Asia, from a continental point of view. But from a political point of view, it's considered half Africa, half Asia. Because
I didn't know that.
Well, you're not. There are a few people that would think of like Saudi Arabia as being like an Asian country, so to speak. Iran actually would be thought of as kind of like an Asian country because of that historically was the seat of the Persian Empire. So Iran is kind of seen as a bit more Asian than the rest of the Middle East, but the Middle East for the most part is not really thought of as being like it's called the Middle East for a reason. It's right in the middle.
It also is a thought that's not thought of too often. That peninsula is probably the very reason Islam is actually practiced in India. Like,
well, a lot of religions are practiced in India. A lot of religions.
There are many religions.
There are 3 dominant religions in India. Like, there are a lot of religions in India, but there are 3 that stand on top, and that's Hinduism, Buddhism, and Islam.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like, I think Islam being so dominant there has to do with that peninsula. Like, the cultures at some point merged. Like,
yeah, absolutely. Well, again,
and Indian Muslims are very different from Saudi Arabian Muslims.
Yeah, and as I mentioned in this program before, India and Pakistan have been in a constant pissing match for years over what to do about Kashmir. And the whole reason that both of those countries have nuclear weapons programs is because of Kashmir.
Now, that being said, there was a point where like India was like far more powerful than Pakistan. Like,
it still is. India is the second. India is a rising power in Asia. They're the second most populous country behind China, and they're at a point now where people are like, if they can like get their act together, they could be a huge economic force in the near future.
Like if they can find a way to correct the caste system, or they can improve their democracy. Like right now.
India, as I've
now,
mentioned,
that's in question because of the farmer dispute that's going on. It's still going on, believe it or not. But yeah,
India. I've said before that India is basically a functioning anarchy because of how disorganized their government is. Okay, so let me break this down for you. Okay, so here in the country, what's the one thing you always hear? The 2-party system sucks. We need more parties. In India, they break down parties per national, state, and district level. Okay? So in India, you have 8 national parties, 52 state parties, and 2,638 other political parties at like the local level.
Oh boy.
That is like 20, that's nearly 2,700 political parties to pick from in India. So, yeah, I mean, these guys have 2 communist parties, believe it or not. They got a communist party. Well, they're both called the Communist Party of India, by the way. They got the Communist Party and the Marxist Communist Party of India. They both have the hammer and sickle. The difference is they have the sickle at least. One has the hammer and the other has, like, I guess, a bushel of wheat. But you got 2 communist parties in India. You got a National People's Party, a Nationalist Congress Party, a Janata Party, a Samaja Party, and All India Congressional Party. I mean, it's like, one of these parties, and I shit you not here, one of these parties, their logo is literally a clock, like an alarm clock. And another party's is called a book. The logo is a book. And
yeah, it's because of the large rate of poor literacy.
There are two parties who are their logos are bicycles.
Yeah, well, yeah, these logos.
3 parties. I'm sorry, 3 parties with bicycles as their logos.
You want to know why?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Due to a high amount of poor literacy in the country of India, there has been a series of images and logos that have been considered government approved symbols for the creation of political parties.
Does India not know what a coalition is?
Do they know what copyright is?
It's a very messy coalition. And by the way, here are some of the unrecognized, like, district level parties. The Revolutionary Communist Party of India. They wanted to separate themselves from the two communist parties of India. The Socialist Republican Party.
Socialist
Republican Party.
We're still going.
Yes. The let's see here. The Gorkha National Liberation Front has no relation to Sebastian Gorka, by the way.
Oh, damn it.
Yeah. The Social Democratic Party of India. So we got a Socialist Republican Party and a Social Democratic Party.
So which parties actually win the elections?
These guys are unrecognized, so I'm guessing none of these guys. Oh, here's one. The All India Mahalaya Empowerment Party. So I guess that's great for the Mahalaya people, whoever they are.
This is where we get into the muddy territory. Do any of these parties have established alliances?
I don't know. Here, there's a party that's literally...
You got the third bicycles riding around with the Revolutionary Communist Party.
There's literally a party called the Plurals Party. And this party was formed last year. The Plurals Party.
Oh the Plurals Party?
Yikes.
Okay. Excuse me?
So, basically, we need to find out butter zone between our crappy-ass two-party system and India's millions and millions of fucking party systems.
Millions, 20...
You can learn to be on the shit or come up with a party and register it.
27...
Let's not go too far. Let's not go to India's large amount of parties. Maybe Israel's 10-party system that could work, but
Let's try to reach UK system, which they have the Conservative Party, they have UKIP, they have the Liberal Democrat, I believe. And
we
I can't remember what all the others were.
In England, it's Conservative, Labour, Lib Dems.
Yeah, there we go, Labour.
Which are basically a non-factor. Labour is the traditional left-wing party. Lib Dems are just kind of an afterthought. The Greens, and I guess UKIP is kind of sort of there still. But, I'm thinking we could go to India and we could start like a sharp-wing political party as like one of these district level parties.
Oh, Christ!
Political party.
I mean, they're two off from 2,700 parties.
The president of India. Wait, is there a nationality rule for the president of India?
I don't know. Let me take a look at that, actually. Well, these are all mainly for... Okay, so the Election Commission of India. Oh, God, I do not envy these guys for the jobs they have to do.
White president of India, if it's possible.
All right.
I will rise them from their oppression.
Let's see. Indian president eligibility.
And then you will be as unpopular as Winston Churchill.
I will start the what the fuck is with all of these bicycle parties campaign.
Okay, so all right,
fucking get rid of all the bicycles. Get rid of the tennis racket. Get rid of the air conditioner. Those are also Indian political parties.
Okay, all right. Okay, so to be the president of India, this is per Article 58 of their constitution. The basic qualification for eligibility, you have to be a citizen of India, obviously, 35 years of age or older, qualified to become a member of the Lok Sabha, which is the lower house of India's parliament.
Can a white guy do that?
I'm not seeing anything that says you can't. That a white guy can't do it.
I say you should start
I don't
learning
see.
Hindi.
I'm about to say I don't see anything in here about a natural born citizen.
Oh my god.
I mean, I'm just saying I didn't see anything there. By the way, so to kind of give you all an idea of the how fucked up things are in India with So you talked about coalitions. It turns out these guys do have coalitions. As I said, so you got 543 seats in the lower house of India's Congress. 333. You have 333 seats, consisting of, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 parties make up the majority coalition. The opposition includes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 parties. And then you have...
Wait a minute. Okay. So, to bring this up, okay. One of the more prominent parties in India is known colloquially as Congress, so it's kind of confusing as an American to be like, okay, we got Congress,
so this is the lower you're right. So this is like the lower legislative house. So you got let's see, I said 11 or 12 parties make up the majority coalition called the National Democratic Alliance, which is mainly a center right alliance. The opposition is called the United Progressive Alliance, so that's center left, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 parties there. And then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 other parties, people who are members of a party who are not part of either alliance. Just kind of there, basically.
Okay. There are 39 parties just hanging out.
I wonder how often the air conditioner party actually wins.
By the way, there are 7 seats that are vacant. By the way, so the next election is in May 2024. So we got a little under 3 years to get the sharp-wing political party started over in India, I think.
God.
Oh, Lord.
Oh, my God!
All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to establish a dictatorship and then turn it into a democracy. That's how we'll fix this shit.
Oh, by the way, here are the qualifications to be a member of the lower house of the parliament. You should be a citizen of India, and you must subscribe to the Election Commission of India, an oath of affirmation according to the form set out the purpose of the third schedule of the Indian Constitution, whatever that is. You should be older than 25. You should possess other such qualifications as may be prescribed in that behalf by or under any law made by the Parliament. You should not be a criminal. And in other words, you shouldn't be a convict, a confirmed debtor, or otherwise disqualified by law. And you should have your name in electoral rolls in any part of the country. Again, I'm not seeing anything that says we can't run for Indian Parliament here.
I mean,
all we got to do is be a citizen of India. We just got to be a citizen of India.
Read up on Indian issues in order
to
get favor.
Exclusive to America?
It's not exclusive to America. I know there are other countries. Mexico has it as well, but I don't see anything about... Let me see what it takes to become a citizen of India.
I do get, though, why they have that rule. You want the president to be somebody who's lived in America all their life.
Uh-huh. Okay, so here it is. All right. Citizenship of India by naturalization can be acquired by a foreigner who is ordinarily a resident for India for 12 years. Okay, so we got to go... We actually have to go living in India for 12 years before we can actually run unless we can get someone inside the Indian Parliament to make an amendment to that.
How is the internet in India?
It's decent. Okay, so here,
it's gotten better recently.
Well, yeah, from what I understand, India has like a huge YouTube presence.
Oh, okay, here. The central government okay. The central government may, on an application, register as a citizen of India under Section 5 of the Citizenship Act of 1955, any person not being an illegal migrant if they belong to the following categories. A person of Indian origin who is ordinarily a resident in India for 7 years before making an application under Section 51A. A person of Indian origin who is ordinarily resident in any country or place outside undivided India. A person who is married to a citizen of India and is ordinarily a resident in India for 7 years before making an application for registration. Minor children or persons who are citizens of India. A person of full age and capacity whose parents are registered citizens of India. A person of full age and capacity who or either of their parents were earlier citizens of independent India India and has been residing in India for 1 year immediately before making an application for registration. A person of full legal capacity who's been registered as an overseas citizen of India for 5 years, has been residing in India for 1 year before making an application for registration. To be an overseas, an OCI, I think you have to be of Indian origin, but again, I think we just have to be a citizen of India here. I think we just really need to marry someone who's Indian. I think that's like the base qualification.
Let's go to India and marry a bitch!
Gentlemen, get on Tinder. We're looking for Indian wives.
Oh, Jesus. We've been at this for 2 hours. Jesus.
Listen.
An hour and a half.
Yeah, we kind of get sidetracked with our plots to take over the Indian government, so...
Yikes.
Take over the Indian government.
That is our mission. That is our team.
Well, we filled up quite a show.
Yep, I think that's a good place to end the show there on
I am
the discussion.
probably on an FBI watch list now.
Yeah, or at least we got a lot. We have pissed off so many people in India who are listening to this right now, probably.
Mr.
But seriously, all the people in America who are saying we need more political parties, after what we told you about India, do you still feel like that?
I feel like we could have a maximum of 10.
I do, but like any Discord server, there should be a maximum count.
I feel like we could have a maximum of 10. Israel seems to be doing good with that.
If a party disbands or disintegrates or falls apart, a slot opens up. But
well, I don't know how good Israel's doing, seeing as that Bibi still can't form a coalition over there.
Yeah. I guess 10's still too much.
Well, I think we don't need it to go as high as 2,700 parties. I don't think we need to go that high.
I'll run on the United Progressive Alliance and see if I can't become the president of India. Yes, fight the means of production.
What are you doing?
With a fake
You're just
Indian
wearing
accent.
you're just wearing a turban.
Just like the most racist caricature.
Yeah, you're just like you're in brown face and wearing a turban. We must reach the means of production.
I've got like Nutella on my face.
Yeah. And meanwhile I'm there also in a turban.
Oh my
Just
god.
like, I agree with this, good man. Do you agree?
Oh my god, that's horrible.
I don't want to deal with India.
I can already pass as Indian.
First off, I do want to make it known, PewDiePie has actually had some of his videos banned from India for offending the government. So we need to be careful here.
I don't want to even deal with India anyway. They keep calling my fucking house phone, my cell phone. They want to fucking scam me of whatever money I have left over.
Okay, yeah. You know what? There's our first act as the new ruling party of India. No more telemarketers to America.
Also, we're gonna unban bitch lasagna.
My first decree as president, unban bitch lasagna.
It'll be an executive order.
Executive order. Bitch lasagna should be able to be played.
Okay, let's end this before we end up getting in trouble with YouTube and they decided that we're bullying India too much.
Yeah, because remember what I said. After China, it's India. They throw a lot of weight around. So, that's gonna do it for our show today. Thank you all so much for listening. We're hoping by next week we will actually be able to start the long anticipated and highly requested from 2 people game playthroughs. We'll be starting. We intend to start with the BioShock playthrough because why not? We talked about libertarianism, and I don't know of a better libertarian critique than the first BioShock game. We will hope to get that, guys, to you. It's should be pretty exciting, should be pretty fun, and that's about it. We'll of course keep you all up to date on any and all stories that warrant your attention, whether it's the vaccine rollout, whether it's Matt Gaetz stuffing little girls, whether it's India deciding to accept us as a political party or whatever. That's what we'll keep you all informed of. So
Fighting hate and intolerance with patriotism. I'm not like I liked that one. That one was good.
that's a pretty good one. Yeah, I like that one. All right, so that's about it. We'll see you all next time. Stay positive, test negative, get those shots, and take care.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Now let us get to unbanning bitch lasagna.